The practice of morality, which means guarding your three doors of body, speech, and mind from indulging in unwholesome activities, equips you with mindfulness and conscientiousness. Therefore, morality is the foundation of the Buddhist path. Our intention should not be spoiled by the 8 worldly preoccupations, gain or loss, pleasure or pain, praise or criticism, and fame or infamy. Nothing is more important than guarding the mind. Let us constantly keep watch over the wild elephant of the mind, curbing it with mindfulness and vigilance. This is how one can avoid being influenced by different external conditions. But even in retreat in a very secluded place, if the mind is not kept under control, it will wander all over the place. Even when completely alone, we can have an enormous amount of negative emotions. Aggression is an intimate part of ourselves. That is why we have to struggle. Men raised in a strictly nonviolent environment have managed to become the most horrible butchers. This proves that the most insane aggressiveness continues to live in the depths of us. But our true nature is calm. We all know that the human mind is agitated, subject to frightful jolts. But this agitation isn't the dominant force. It is possible and necessary to master it. Can the mind even see the mind? We have to answer yes and no. No, because the mind can't be a subject and object at the same time. The mind interferes, whether it wants to or not, whether it knows it or not, in all that it observes. And with all the more reason when it is a question of itself. But the mind cannot see itself completely. However, the principal tool for purifying the mind is the mind itself. The mind is its own creator at every instant, hence its responsibility, which is essential. I believe that to meet the challenge of the next century, all human beings will have to develop a greater sense of universal responsibility. Each of us must learn to work not just for his or her own self, family, or nation, but for the benefit of all mankind. It is very old-fashioned to think in terms of my nation or my country. Universal responsibility is the real key to human survival. Large human movements spring from individual initiatives. Thus it is the individual working for the common welfare who makes the difference. There are 2 types of prayer. Prayers are, for the most part, simply reminders in your daily practice. So, the verses look like prayers, but are actually reminders of how to speak, how to deal with problems and other people, etc. In my own daily practice, prayer takes about 4 hours. My practice is reviewing compassion, forgiveness, and shunyata. Then the major portion is the visualization of deity, mandala, and attendant tantric practice, including visualization of death and rebirth. In my case, it is done 8 times. So 8 times death is 8 times rebirth. I am supposed to be preparing for my death. When actual death comes, whether I will succeed or not, I don't know. In modern scientific terms, physicists, in their pursuit of understanding the nature of physical reality, have reached the stage where they have lost the concept of solid matter. They can't come up with the real identity of matter, so they are beginning to see things in more holistic terms, in terms of interrelationships rather than discrete, independent, concrete objects. Occasionally, people who do not have a proper knowledge of karmic law say that such and such person is very kind and religious, but he always has problems, whereas so-and-so is very deceptive and negative, but always seems very successful. Such people may think that there is no karmic law at all. There are others who go to the other extreme and become superstitious, thinking that when someone experiences illness, it is all due to harmful spirits. However, there is a definite relation between causes and effects, that actions not committed will never produce an effect, and that once committed, actions will never lose their potentiality. Generosity is of 3 types: giving material aid, giving dharma, and protecting from fear. Giving dharma refers to the giving of teachings to other sentient beings with pure motivation to benefit them. When we pray together, I feel something. I do not know whether you would call it blessings or grace, but in any case there's a certain feeling that we can experience. If we utilize it properly, this feeling is very helpful for developing our inner strength. In dealing with those who are undergoing great suffering, if you feel burnout setting in, if you feel demoralized and exhausted, it is best, for the sake of everyone, to withdraw and restore yourself. The point is to have a long-term perspective. The mind can and must transform itself. It can get rid of the impurities that contaminate it and rise to the highest level. We all start off with the same capacities, but some people develop them and others don't. We get very easily used to the mind's laziness, all the more easily because laziness hides beneath the appearance of activity. We run right and left, we make calculations and phone calls. But these activities engage only the most elementary and coarse levels of the mind. They hide the essential from us. Ordinary compassion and love give rise to a very close feeling, but it is essentially attachment. As long as the other person appears to you as beautiful or good, love remains. But as soon as he or she appears to you as less beautiful or good, your love completely changes. Even though your dear friend is the same person, he or she feels more like an enemy. Instead of love, you now feel hostility. With genuine love and compassion, another person's appearance or behavior has no effect on your attitude. Real compassion comes from seeing the other's suffering. You feel a sense of responsibility, and you want to do something for him or her. If we examine ourselves every day with mindfulness and mental alertness, checking our thoughts, motivations, and their manifestations in external behavior, a possibility for change and self-improvement can open within us. Although I myself cannot claim with confidence to have made any remarkable progress over the years, my desire and determination to change and improve is always firm. From early morning until I go to bed, and in all situations of life, I always try to check my motivation and be mindful and present in the moment. Personally, I find this to be very helpful in my own life. Do your best, and do it according to your own inner standard. Call it conscience, not just according to society's knowledge and judgment of your deeds. To do our best is just a phrase of a few words. But it means that at all times in our everyday life, we should check our mind so that we don't feel guilty about our mistakes, even though others don't know about it. If we do that, we are doing our best. It is important to think very well before entering a particular spiritual tradition. Once you have entered, you should stick to it. Do not be like a man who tastes food in all the different restaurants, but never actually gets down to eating a meal. Think carefully before adopting a practice, then follow it through. This way, you will get some results from dedicating even a little time each day. Alternatively, if you try to follow all the various paths, you will not get anywhere. It seems that when people become desperate, they consult the gods. And when the gods become desperate, they tell lies. I am always quite cheerful. It is, I think, the result of my own practice and training. In my lifetime, I have lost my country and have been reduced to being totally dependent on the goodwill of others. I have also lost my mother, and most of my tutors and gurus have passed away, although I now have a few new gurus. Of course, these are tragic incidents, and I feel sad when I think about them. However, I don't feel overwhelmed by sadness. Old, familiar faces disappear, and new faces appear, but I still maintain my happiness and peace of mind. If a person has a really deep interest in spiritual growth, he or she cannot do away with the practice of meditation. That is the key. Just a mere prayer or wish will not affect this inner spiritual change. The only way for development is through a constant effort through meditation. Of course, in the beginning it is not easy. You may find difficulties or a loss of enthusiasm, or perhaps in the beginning there will be too much enthusiasm. Then after a few weeks or months, your enthusiasm may wane. We need to develop a constant, persistent approach based on a long-term commitment.